Welcome everybody who's joining us now and people who will be joining. Today we have a Q&A on Sukkot, on being healthy, habits, routines, mindset for Sukkot. I have a bunch of questions you guys have submitted in advance, and I hope for everybody who comes online for coaching, we're going to be able to answer some questions here as well. As we were getting started today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Sukkot habits and routines for the holiday. Then we are going to take questions throughout, and then you guys can, I hope, choose to stay. And I'm going to tell you guys about my group coaching program called the Shabbat Ideal Weight Blueprint, which is starting October 30th after the holidays, which is going to help actualize kind of the things we talk about and learn. Because on Sukkot and on Shabbat, it's not just about Shabbat and Sukkot. It's really about our mindset and relationship with food, how we talk to ourselves, how we interact with food, and also clarity onto what healthy looks like. And how do we know if we're doing healthy or we're just doing kind of random stuff we've read in newspapers and articles, et cetera, et cetera. And there's so many fads out there, it can be very confusing. So if you're with me here, first of all, welcome to everybody who's live. Please utilize the chat if you can. If you're driving, do not touch the chat. And just ask to unmute, and I'll unmute you as you have a question or smile or wave, etc. So a few of the questions that we got in advance were about habits and routines for the holiday. And the reason that habits and routines are so darn sexy is because they let us put food on autopilot a little bit while we focus on creating meaningful relationships. One of the things I love most about Sukkot is that it is the holiday that I have some of my best childhood, adolescent, and adult memories around. Would you guys agree with that? Like some of your best Jewish cultural family memories happen in Sukkot? I mean, there's something about sitting in the sukkah that's out of your normal space that just creates sensory memories. And it's like this for many Jewish holidays, many Jewish traditions, and the Jewish relationship to food overall, where even day to day, it's totally socially acceptable in our community to emotionally eat, to overeat on food, to give food to people who are sick, to give food. Today, I made energy bites to give to a neighbor as a zchut for a friend of mine who has cancer that's out of remission. And so they asked everybody to pass along the food to somebody else, right? Because our whole lives revolve around food when we're Jewish. So how can we do that in a healthy way? How can we autopilot some of the healthy behaviors so we can work on adding meaning to what we're doing into our life, which is going to actually create a better, healthier relationship with food and a healthier weight, which is important because your weight is correlated to your risk of disease as you age. A lot of the diseases today are related to our nutrition and our weight. And I'm not obsessed with the scale. I'm not obsessed with weight, but I'm being honest. Our overall health matters. And the older we get, the more your physical weight has a huge impact on a lot of those risk factors for heart disease, for diabetes, and all of those related problems that come as we get older. Okay, so we have to be honest. So let's talk today about some of the habits and routines that you can do while you're in the sukkah and over Sukkot. So a few of the questions about routines were about eating in the sukkah, not at mealtime. Can you guys relate to non-mealtime eating is a challenge, right? What do you guys think? If you can put a one in the chat, put a one in the chat. If I see your video, kind of nodding your head is great as well. Okay, non-mealtime eating in the sukkah, right? Non-mealtime eating on trips over the holiday, on vacations, non-mealtime eating. So one of the questions that we got was, what kind of habit or routine can I put into place to help me be more mindful and stop overeating in between meals? First of all, this is such an intelligent question. Number one, because it shows that you're aware that really we have a lot of freedom at our meals when we are not overeating between meals. Most of the issues that cause weight gain, that cause us to feel bloated, that cause us to feel uncomfortable are happening between meals. Number two, most of our less nutritional decisions happen in between meals. And often if we're not hungry at meals and making kind of poor choices, it kind of sets up a cycle when we're eating between meals. So what would be something good to start with? So number one is to start with any form of liquid. So it could be water, it could be tea, it could be a decaf coffee. I'm not a big proponent of too much caffeine. There's amazing water enhancers out there. That's number one, is if you feel like you just want to put something in your mouth in between meals, start with water or tea of some kind, or decaf coffee if you're a coffee lover like I am. Number two, the more that you choose water, the more you still get to make the blessing on being in the Sukkot. You still get to make Shehakol Nihiyah Bidvaro, which in English means everything is according to God's word, his intention, whatever he wants will be, which is also kind of comforting. And it's a beautiful way to pause in between meals when you're stressed out, when you're overwhelmed by input coming in, sensory input from family, from friends, from life. Be like, you know what? God's got this. And every time you drink water and every time you make that blessing, just think, God's got this. Look at your water. God's got this. It's not all on me. I don't have to freak out here. I can de-escalate the thought patterns that are coming. And that process of recognizing that we are in emergency mode. When I told the story a few minutes before we recorded that today I just had a meat lunch and I went to make a coffee and I put milk in my coffee. And in a minute, my mindset escalated to, oh my gosh, I took the wrong thing. This is going to waste the coffee. I'm supposed to be on a Zoom in 2 minutes. Do I have time to make another coffee? I don't have time to make another coffee. So many times, something small happens and it escalates in our thoughts. Okay? Knowing how to de-escalate your thoughts, take a deep breath. God's got this. Everything is as it's supposed to be. I'm not supposed to have coffee right now because I don't have time to make another one. I'm supposed to fill up my water bottle, which was already full. Take it upstairs, add a packet of lemonade to it because it's open, and enjoy that beverage while I'm teaching. Awesome. Yay. Okay. De-escalate, come upstairs, take a few deep breaths and show up for you guys. All of these ways that we de-escalate the situation is really important in between meals. One of my clients, I'm going to change her name to protect her anonymity. Her name is Judy. And she was telling me this week about over Rosh Hashanah and over the last few holidays in terms of eating between meals, that what she had started doing, which was really, really helpful, which was putting out a platter of cut vegetables in between every meal. So every time that she prepared a meal for the family, she prepared a platter of cut vegetables and left it in the kitchen. And when the meal was over and it was kind of leaving and it was going to be hours between the next meal and they were going to sit outside, she just brought a platter of cut vegetables. It was a very pretty wooden platter. And in the center, she put some guacamole, then she put some hummus in it, then she put some tahini dip in it, whatever it was. She just kept refilling it. Wasn't a huge tray, but if there was going to be nothing between meals, almost at each and every opportunity, it was emptied by the people in our house. People who, if she would have asked them, hey, do you want a vegetable right now? They'd be like, no, I don't. These kind of habits and routines are so helpful because you're not asking yourself, would I like to eat vegetables right now? Would I like to drink water right now? No, they're just habit, they're routine. I'm going out to the sukkah. I'm going to make sure I grab a healthy beverage that increases my health. The more water you drink, the better skin you have. If you're using herbal teas, all of those different herbs actually contribute to a healthier gut, which contributes to better immunity. You can also get different teas like echinacea tea and sambucol tea, which is also called elderberry tea. We're changing seasons right now. Very often people get colds around this time of year. Using those kind of teas can actually even increase the positivity and good things you're putting in your body. There's an amazing turmeric green tea out there that you can try, all from Wazowski and many other brands. So really, it's a wonderful way to keep going. Another great tip for in between meals is sugar-free lollipops from xylitol or stevia. I got 2 bags for my family this year, one chocolate, one just like assorted fruit flavors. They actually have fiber, and there's 30 calories for 2 lollipops. So again, if you want to have something sweet, it's in between meals. This is a great, easy way to meet your needs calmly, have something fun, and move on, especially over a holiday where this like culture of treat is happening. Okay. Was this helpful so far? Yes? Okay, great. So the second question that I heard was the eating late at night because you're doing so much hosting in the sukkah or going out to other people's sukkahs or on vacation, and so you're up later at night. I also heard this from people who said they're up later at night because they're working all day and their only time to be with their family in the sukkah is in the evening. So for whatever reason you're eating later than normal, that can have effect on you digestively, that you feel more bloated in the morning. It can affect you emotionally, where after a certain period of night, when I was a teenager, my dad had this line of like, nothing good happens after 1 a.m. He's like, I don't care where you are, at 1 a.m., I want you to call me and let me know that you are going to bed at a friend's house or you are coming home, because nothing good ever happens after 1 a.m. So very often when we're eating late at night, we're not making positive choices. Our frontal lobe has turned off for the day and we are at the mercy of impulsivity. So not great choices happen in the evening. What can we do to overcome this? So actually I was inspired by one of my clients named, change her name, 1 second, Betty. Guess what, her name also starts with a B, but her name, we're gonna call her Betty because I like to protect my clients' names. So Betty recently created a really fun nighttime routine that I want to share with you guys. So she was really struggling with this feeling of eating very late at night. And then in the morning, she was feeling bloated. And so then she was pushing off her breakfast till really late. And then she was getting, and then it wasn't quite lunchtime yet. She was getting too hungry for lunch. And round we go. She was then eating late again the next night and just feeling frustrated. So 2 things. Number one of the most important things I do when I'm coaching somebody is to bring the circumstance down to neutral. Eating late at night is not a weight gain sentence necessarily. It's not a death sentence. It's not a freak out sentence. It's just a fact. Our response to that fact is going to dictate what our actions are and then what our results are going to be, because we're always going to end up proving ourselves true. So if we say that I'm for sure going to gain weight, I'm going to feel bad if I eat at night, all of these things, but that's what's going to happen. But if we say, I can always figure this out, the thought is, that's interesting. I wonder what the best meal for me to eat at night is while I'm in this situation. All of a sudden, I'm going to approach it with curiosity. We're going to make better choices, and we're going to see better results. So it's really important that we check in with what our inner programming is about this fact, eating at night. So Betty was eating a lot at night lately. And what she found was that by drinking 2 liters of water in the period while she was eating at night, really helped her to not overeat. All of a sudden, also that extra water took care of the bloating that she'd been feeling in the morning, and she'd been able to kind of have more. She was still eating a little bit later than usual, but it was still just a late breakfast. She was able to continue on with her routine as normal during the day. And some days she was eating later, and some days she wasn't. She didn't feel like her whole schedule was thrown off. So what does that mean? She was drinking 2 liters of water around her food. Let's break it down really fast. So what she noticed is that when she drank 16 ounces of water before she started eating, and then she would have a few bites, eat a little bit, pause, and then have more water. Then she would sit back, she would enjoy. If she wanted to eat a little bit more, she'd eat a little bit more, she'd have some more water or tea, and she was done. By putting breaks for water inside, she gave herself time to be more mindful in her eating and less impulsive. Also, she was able to sit at the table with her family and her husband and talk about their day and interact and move her focus to the food, to everything that was going on around her. A smaller plate so she would have room for the water. And she noticed that about 2 liters, because she drank then more while she was still sitting at the table afterwards, was the magic number. And it didn't matter really so much what was on her plate. There was some vegetables, there was some protein, there was some carbohydrates. It just wasn't such a big deal. When it was bookended by all that water, yes, she did tell me she was up at the bathroom once during the night, but it was totally worth it because the anxiety was gone, the worry was gone. She felt so much better the next day, and it was just calmer. And that's what we want. We want a calm, happy Sukkot. And we feel good. We feel empowered to make great choices. So far we have, welcome. So far we've talked about late night eating over Sukkot, and we've talked about mid eating, like eating kind of between meals. Now let's talk a little bit about people pleasing. One of my favorite topics that we cover in the Shabbat Ideal Weight Blueprint group coaching is entertaining. And under that topic of whether it's entertaining on Shabbat, entertaining during the week, entertaining on Jewish holidays, is people pleasing. How many times has someone brought over to our house a cake, cookies, and we want to eat it because they made the effort to bring it to us? How many of you guys this holiday were to someone else's house and gifted them a sweet treat? When you go over to someone else's sukkah, are you bringing them a food item or are you bringing them flowers? Okay, very often in our culture, we choose to bring a food item, whether it's wine or alcohol or cookies or candies or whatever. Okay, and so very often that's also what we're receiving. And so very, very normal. Can you guys relate to feeling like an inner pressure to eat something out of a sense of reciprocity? In fact, it's proven that at a restaurant, if the waiter comes back to your table and checks on you, the more times he comes back and checks on you and actually brings you something, whether it's refilling your water without being asked, or clearing the crumbs off your table, or bringing you an after, dinner candy, the more times he does that, the higher the percentage of tip he gets because of reciprocity, just because you feel this sense of automatically wanting to do something for them. And so it's very normal. There's nothing wrong with you, but it does come from a sense of people pleasing, not asking yourself, am I hungry? Do I want to eat this? It's, I should eat this to make the other person happy, to show love and respect for them. So here I want to pause and I want to talk about a few different tools and techniques that we can use to clean up this mindset of people pleasing. And this would apply to also, you're invited to someone's house for coffee, but you're not hungry, and you still want to say yes and see them. This applies to having somebody over between meals, having someone into your sukkah. There's really a concept of bringing somebody in and then giving them something to eat or drink. This is deep in our Jewish culture. Since Abraham Avinu with the tent, he brought people in, he fed them. We feed people. It's what we do. What we need to do is bring it to neutral circumstance. And then what are our thoughts about that? Our thoughts about that are, I have to feed someone when they come to my house. I have to eat when I'm a guest. Or can I show that sense of reciprocity in a different way? So here's a few tools, tips, techniques that we can try to use. Number one is delay the yes. Oh, thank you so much. I'll let you know when I'm ready for that. Or, can I take some in a few minutes? Right, just delay saying yes. Thank you so much. That cookie looks delicious. I'm just not hungry yet. I'll let you know when I'm ready. Any kind of words that feel organic, authentic to you, really helpful. Okay. I had a client who would always say yes, take the cookie on a plate and then leave it in another room, and walk into a new room, and just put it down and forget it. She started doing that after she watched a good friend of hers who never ate sweets, but who was always accepting sweets when people offered them to her. She watched what she did, and she would just put it down and walk away somewhere else. Like she kind of spaced out and forgot about it. And she kind of copied her, and it worked really well for her. So everybody finds their own. I find that delaying the yes is great. Another thing is delaying the no. If you really don't like the thing, it's not your thing, then delaying the no is super helpful. Okay, just, oh, you know what? I want to do this thing first. I'll get right back to you. Not right now. No thanks. No thanks. I'm good. Or you know what? Let me just check on the kids first. Let me just get settled. You know what? I'm going to head to the bathroom and I'll be back in a minute. Just delaying having to say no also gives you time to really see, hey, can I just compliment her on it? Do I have to eat it? I can show reciprocity. I can show love. I can show appreciation in a lot of ways that aren't just eating someone else's food that they brought to me or I brought to them. Another one that we find works really well, and I've seen a lot of success for myself and for my clients with, is when you pause and change the subject. You just pause. Oh, hi, thank you so much. Thank you. Sitting down in the sukkah here. What can I get for you? You know what? I'm good right now. I'll get right back to you. Just be mindful, check in, and then ask yourself, is there something you actually want? Would you like a cup of tea? Would it be really helpful if she gave you a cup of water? Be mindful, check in, and then give her something else to do that could be really helpful for you. Okay, something that would be positive for you, something that would be positive for your health. Okay, it's so important to smile, to honestly connect with another person, and to not let food or the fear of food kind of stand in your way, stand between you and your connection to that person. So on these 3 topics so far, I'd love to hear any questions that you guys have or other questions you have on Sukkot. So you can unmute or you can write them in the chat. What here has been kind of helpful for you so far? And then maybe one question that you have on something we didn't cover yet. Lynn, do you want to ask a question and kind of maybe share one thing you've gotten so far? Hold on, you're still muted. You have to unmute. Still can't hear you. There you
Hi,
are.
can
Hi.
you hear me now?
We hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We could hear you. Sandra, anything you want to ask or share?
Okay.
In the chat. Oh, here's one. Go ahead.
I'm going to do that for myself. When late at night, when I want something, I'm going to say to myself, no, I'm good. Thank you.
Great. Definitely, we can work on people pleasing with ourselves too, with our own inner cravings. I think that's a great idea. I love that point. Do you have a question on something we didn't cover yet? Something you see come up often for you on Sukkot?
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Sandra, anything you want to add? Or a question you have?
No.
Hi.
Hi. I mean, this is me.
Any questions on Sukkot?
Nope. Just listening in. Thanks.
Okay, great. Awesome. So then let's go continue with some of the questions on habits and routines that we also got for Sukkot. And then we're going to wrap up, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about the group coaching for Spot Ideal Way Blueprint. So another very common question that we had from people who wrote in on Sukkot was just how to handle the amount of cooking and prep that is happening over this very long holiday. Got it. So one of the most important tips when it comes to cooking or preparing or creating a meal plan or schedule is first to look at what you can take off your list. Sometimes we're looking at these days and we're like, oh my gosh, there's so many people, there's so much cooking, there's so much I could be doing. And we put this crazy intense pressure on ourselves. Well, every meal needs to be very, holiday-like, and that means that, and to every person, that means a bunch of different things. You're gonna have a bunch of unique thoughts to you, to your upbringing, as to what that means. A holiday meal to you might mean there's multiple courses. A holiday meal to you might mean that there's multiple proteins. A holiday meal to you could mean that you need to get out the best dishes, and it just creates a lot of extra dishes for yourself. Everybody's different. Just like the amount of effort and everybody puts into their sukkah, it's different the effort everyone puts into cooking and planning. When we recognize that there is no perfect, there is no right way to do it, it's all just our programming and our desires, that gives us a lot of freedom to pause now before Sukkot starts and ask ourselves, take a minute and just journal out for yourself on a bullet points. When I think holiday meals, What does that mean? And then ask yourself, who taught me that? And then ask yourself, does that feel good to me? Do I love this? Then ask yourself, if I could design what a holiday meal would mean, and it would be right no matter what would I actually want it to be? I have my in-laws here for the holiday this year, and anytime you have your in-laws or your parents, you have a myriad of other people's traditions, thoughts, and feelings coming in with your own thoughts and feelings in history. So when we're preparing and planning meals for Sukkot, we have to take into account, there's our story of what a holiday meal is, and then there's the expectations of our husband and everybody else involved in the holiday. And so sometimes that's why we overboard. Well, I'm having guests. What does a holiday mean when I'm alone? What does a holiday mean when I'm having guests? Having permission to rewrite your personal history and to have to say, okay, when I have guests, it's always meant that I serve dessert. When I have guests, it always means I have new proteins. When I have guests, it always means I have a larger variety of food. When I have guests, it always means whatever it means to you. And check in with yourself and saying, what are the things that I value most that I want to give in the experience to my guests? And when you ask yourself what you want them to remember when they leave your home, it's going to not be the dishes that you're making. It's going to be the feeling you're creating. And so you have a lot more leeway than you give yourself as to how to create those dishes. So when it comes to planning and prep, if you want to have a healthy menu plan, a healthy blueprint, I highly recommend one vegetable for every carb that you're making, and one vegetable for every protein that you're making, and one vegetable for every carb that you're making. So if you're making potatoes and chicken on the barbecue, right, and you're going to do fries and roasted grilled chicken on the barbecue, then maybe you're going to have 3 vegetables. Maybe you're going to have some kebabs, vegetables on the barbecue, and maybe you have a lettuce salad and maybe chopped salad or cabbage salad. But when you kind of take that blueprint, it's going to make it really so much easier to menu plan, whether it's just a dinner on a weeknight in the sukkah or it's a holiday meal. You're going to have so much abundance and color and freshness with your food, but it's also going to make it really easy when you actually go to build a plate to make healthy choices. Don't forget, if you're adding dessert, that is another carbohydrate. So you want to add another vegetable to your meal if you're going to be serving dessert as well. And also always make sure you have an interesting, healthy option at the same time that you are serving something unhealthy. And if I'm serving something unhealthy and something healthy, I always make sure that it's individually portioned. So if I make a big tray of brownies, I cut them into individual pieces and I put them in like a little cupcake liner. If I'm serving cake, again, it's like I can make little mini cupcakes or little mini cakes. And I find that that is so much easier for me and for my guests to pace themselves through all of the holiday meals. So they leave my house feeling great. And I know that's worked for so many of my clients as well. Yifat, welcome. What questions do you have about Sukkot? And you can look back to Rosh Hashanah and you can think about what was really working for you on Rosh Hashanah and where you feel like Sukkot is maybe a different animal. Yifat, are you available to kind of share some of your questions on Sukkot, things you're thinking about going into the holiday?
I'm just waiting to hear from you because everything you're saying resonates. Yeah, there's definitely expectations. There's definitely traditional things that we always make, which are not on the healthy list. So I'm just going to take in for now what you're saying and then see how I can stick it into my Sukkot.
That's awesome. Do you mind giving us 2 examples of like traditions you have that you would consider not healthy?
Well, we never eat cold cuts during the year. I don't believe that they're healthy. I never buy those things, except on Sukkot and Pesach. So on Sukkot, I make like a deli roll. My kids go crazy and they wait the whole year for it. I don't have to have it. I'm not crazy about it. I really don't. It's just, I was thinking of maybe making them into like little mini burekas kind of shape, and then maybe making that. Although I know some of my kids won't stop at just one, but at least I'm doing my share. But yeah, I'm definitely gonna have guests, so yes, there's gonna be a few proteins, but I find that that's not a downfall for me personally because I'm not a volume eater. I just like
Mm-hmm.
sweets and I like so I'm not a volume, so I'll have my portion and then I find it's great because then I have leftovers and I can always reach out for them. So to me, it's not a downfall, but I usually just struggle more with the desserts, but I have to figure out something with the deli roll, and I've definitely been implementing more salads. And it's my parents-in-law who are coming over, so they're older also. So when I make like big meals, they're also like, oh, I'm like so full. So I am gonna go more on the heavy on the veggies and lower on the carbs because there's always challah, and I think that's plenty. When there's so much food and so much protein, so much salad, nobody needs rice or potatoes. Personally, I don't think so. I think that's plenty, especially that there's also dessert afterwards. So yeah, I'm just gonna soak in what you're saying for now.
Okay, so you brought up two things that I think will help everybody. So let's address them. So number one is this kind of idea of a deli roll. And one of the things what we talked about before you came on is taking whatever it is that's making us stressed about food and saying, how can we move it to like a more neutral thing? So deli roll, you have all these like, right, preconceived beliefs, deli's not healthy, the pastry's not healthy, they're gonna overeat it. There's all this like escalating concern about kind of a neutral food, right? Like the same way, like cake's not particularly healthy, but it's not going to kill you. A piece of deli roll's not good for you, but it has some protein in it, right? I mean, like it's not eating white sugar from the bag. Okay, so how can we use kind of the tools that we have once it's more neutral to get curious? Hey, well, you know what? This is really important to my kids. What is the part that's important to my kids? Is it the pastry or is it the deli? Is it the whole thing together, right? If it's the deli, you could wrap it in a whole spell tortilla and like do little mini tortilla bites, right? If it was hypothetically the actual deli roll, so I loved your idea about the barekas, but then the worry came in, oh, but then they're going to overeat it. But what if you only made enough that there was one per person, and instead of it being part of a main course, it was like empanadas, like on a first course. So already it's something like small, it's with toothpicks, it's like cute and exciting, but it's not made to be like the thing you're going to eat a million of because it's a first course. So there's a lot of ways once we get out of like it's off limits, it's off limits, it's off limits, we can come to it with a lot more lightness, and that generally tends to create a better result. What do you think?
Yes, I mean, I never make it as a first course for sure, as a main course, that's for sure. Not, it's always an add-on, but it's just one of my sons. He goes crazy for anything like cold cuts or meats or like, it's just, I guess, my personal thing that I have to work on with him. But yeah, he'll just have to be limited to one or two. But I think I'll stick to either the barekas or like you're saying, actually the tortillas sounds like a good idea because for them, it's really I don't know if it's so much a puff pastry part as much as it's the cold cuts. So if I go heavier on the cold cuts, but I put it in a tortilla, it just makes my life easier. It's a bit easier to make. And it's healthier. At least I cut out the puff pastry. And I can even cut it even smaller because it's a tortilla. It's not even a bureka size. It's even smaller than that. And then if they have 2 or 3 even, it's not such a big deal. That's true.
I think I love that. And then when it comes to the sweets, a few things that we mentioned before you hopped on were like having them be portion size and also like thinking about all the sweets you're going to have for the whole week. We didn't mention this. I'm going to mention this now. One of the things that happens is today, my family went to the gluten-free bakery. They opened a new gluten-free bakery close by, and I have 3 celiac kids. My in-laws took my kids to the gluten-free bakery. How many desserts came back with them? You wouldn't believe, okay? A ton of desserts came back with them. 3 bags of gummy worms came back with them. Okay, a million treats came back with them. Okay, so first thing is not to escalate the situation, de-escalate. This is neutral. This is not a bad thing. This isn't a good thing. It's just a thing. They had a good time. They picked everything out. My in-laws paid for it. They were all happy. Excellent. The thought doesn't have to be now everyone's going to overeat. Now everyone's going to be sick. The thought doesn't have, right? I'm going to remove that thought. The thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be such a mess. The kids and the sugar, remove that thought. This is neutral. This is just neutral. I'm curious, what could we do to know that everyone's going to be able to enjoy themselves and feel good? Okay, so if we go in with that's the concept, that everyone is going to enjoy themselves and everyone's going to feel good. No one's going to be sugar crashing. No one's going to be upset that when we take family photos before Simchas Torah that they don't look good in their dresses anymore. No one's going to feel like that. Everyone's going to feel good. That's the thought. What do we need to do? So kind of what I did was, first of all, not react, not like, oh, I'm like, oh, interesting. Let's put everything in the freezer. We're going away for Shabbos. It'll all be there when we get back for Yom Tov. And then I'm going to use my tools. When we serve things, we now have more than enough treats to probably last us. They bought them for first days of Chag, but we have more than enough to last for many, many days of Chag or many guests coming to our home and our sukkah for a good long while, okay? So I know that, again, everybody has big eyes, but a small tummy, okay, when it comes to sweets. We all have big eyes and a small tummy. So by making sure that if they want to serve 2 different kinds of cake, that I have one tray that has, like, we're 10 people, that there's not going to be more than 20 little portions on that tray. So if somebody wants to have 1 of each dessert, there'll be 2 there, okay? If there's going to be candy, then I'm putting it in small jars that we can refill and bring to the table. It encourages people to take less at a time. If someone finishes a meal and they had 2 small pieces of cake and 2 gummy bears, oh my gosh, if I would just drop them to the table, it would be handfuls. So first of all, using the tool of making it small. Also looking at over the entire holiday. Do we want to just have 1 special dessert at each meal? Or do you want to bring out a multitude to kind of, then people feel obligated to take both kinds? So you kind of want to think about the personality of your house. In my house, if I put out 2 desserts, the first thing every kid will ask is, can I have both? Number 1, first thing they'll ask. Other people's homes, I see they put out 12 desserts. Their kid takes the one that they like best and walks away. That's not how it works in our family. So you have to know yourself, know your kids neutrally. There's no wrong answer here. It's what's going to get you the result and the thought of everybody can enjoy themselves and everybody can feel good. How can I not control them, but how can I help facilitate an environment that makes it easier to make good choices? One of the things we did was we got a big jar that's very thin, for all the gummies they got for friends and guests that are coming over. We put some names of people who need refuah shlema on it, so that every time someone takes one, they're going to make a bracha and they're going to say yehi ratzon, a blessing for the blessing that they make in the sukkah to be in the honor or merit of these people who are sick. So what we're doing is we're taking something that could be, okay, grabbing, we're turning into a conversation piece. We're making it a higher level spiritual experience as well. So that already you're not going to be taking a big handful because, like, it's not incongruent with taking something to mindfully make a blessing, to mindfully do something for somebody who's sick. So these kind of mindset shifts are really, really helpful when it comes to making dessert and to enjoy your sweets. One of those other things is making Lily's hot cocoa. If you don't have the recipe, ask me for it after the call. And these kind of things which really make a huge difference. Okay, so we have 4 minutes left. And then I wanted to take this time, like I told you guys at the beginning, to talk to you about the Shabbat Ideal Way Blueprint Group Coaching Program. Yifat is actually currently in the program, and we are going to be having our group session on routines for Shabbat and during the week right after this call. So how it works is we take these big concepts. We all know how to eat. We all know what healthy looks like. But when it comes down to how we're implementing it in our life, very often we get in our own way. We have a lot of old baggage around food, old stresses around food, old thought patterns around food that we need to unblock so that we can get out of our way of emotional eating, out of the way of anxiety, out of the way of people pleasing, and create habits, routines, and patterns that really sustain you so that you're losing weight are maintaining a healthy weight all week and not gaining weight over the weekend of these Jewish holidays. Well, people can average 7 to 10 pounds of weight gain that they spend the whole next 3 months till the next Jewish holiday losing. So it's really important in order to see progress that we conquer the emotional eating, the weekends, the mindset, and the background behaviors and habits that are really hurting our progress and our health for our life. The group coaching is small group. It is for 12 weeks and it begins October 30th. If you're interested in more details, you're interested in talking to me one-on-one about what it would look like for you and what it looks like practically, then I would love to have that conversation with you. I'm so happy that you guys came here today, because by coming here today, you got a little taste of what it's like to be coached. When you're coached, it changes the entire experience. It stops from being just taking in. And like you thought so beautifully demonstrated, it also turns into how can I apply this to myself very practically. And with coaching, we can get out of our own way and see better results. I love you guys. Have a Chag Sameach, Zman Simchatenu. It is the holiday of joy. Feel that Sukkot giving you a hug. And if you want just to take in information, there's that incredible interactive virtual event, an hour and a half long with 4 different speakers that I sent out an email and recorded for Sukkot. So I highly recommend you check that out while you're doing other things. Listen to it in the background. Have an amazing holiday, and let me know if you are interested in the next cohort of our group coaching program. And I will talk to you guys later.